there's a residential block in Krasnoyarsk, built in 1967. Standard Soviet architecture, 5 stories. Concrete panel construction. 48 apartments. Communal courtyard in the center. Nothing unusual, nothing remarkable. Except for one detail that doesn't appear in any official record. The courtyard hums. Not machinery, not traffic, not wind. The sound comes from above, from the sky itself. A low rumble, constant, unceasing, but only audible when standing in the courtyard. Step outside the perimeter, the sound disappears. Step back in, it returns. Always the same frequency, always the same volume, and it's been there since the day the building opened. The first complaints were filed in December 1967. Residents reported hearing a persistent noise in the courtyard. Low, droning, irritating. The building superintendent investigated, found nothing. No machinery in the courtyard, no transformers, no ventilation systems. Just open concrete, empty space, but the sound was undeniable. Everyone heard it. When maintenance crews were sent to investigate, they heard it too. One technician described it in his report dated December 19, 1967.
The noise is present, audible to all personnel. Source unidentified. Appears to originate from overhead. No visible cause. No equipment malfunction detected.
By January 1968, the complaints intensified. Residents demanded action. The noise was affecting sleep, causing headaches, disrupting daily life. Children refused to play in the courtyard. Adults avoided it. The building became known locally as the Humming Block. Municipal authorities ordered a full investigation. Engineers arrived, acoustic specialists, structural inspectors. They spent 2 weeks analyzing the courtyard. Testing, measuring, recording. Their findings were inconclusive. The sound was real, measurable, consistent, but its source was impossible to determine. The final report, submitted February 4th, 1968, stated, acoustic phenomenon confirmed. Frequency approximately 47 Hz. Amplitude consistent. Origin unknown. No structural defects identified. No environmental factors detected. Recommend continued observation. No solution was offered. No repairs were made. The residents were told to tolerate it. Temporary anomaly, they were told. Will resolve naturally. It didn't. The hum continued. Months passed, then years. Residents adapted, learned to live with it, but some couldn't. 3 families moved out in 1968, 5 more in 1969. The apartments were refilled, new tenants, new complaints. The cycle repeated. In 1971, something changed. A resident named Galina Sokolova began documenting the hum. She was a school teacher, methodical, analytical. She kept a journal, recorded observations, times, durations, variations. She noticed patterns. The hum wasn't constant. It fluctuated, subtly. Certain times of day, it was louder. Certain weather conditions, it intensified. She noted, the hum increases during overcast days, particularly before storms. The frequency remains stable, but the amplitude grows. On clear days, the hum is quieter, almost imperceptible, but still present. Sokolova shared her findings with other residents. Together, they conducted informal experiments. They brought radios into the courtyard. tuned to different frequencies. The hum interfered with some stations. Not all, just specific frequencies. Around 40 to 50 hertz. They brought recording equipment, tape recorders. The hum was captured, clearly, undeniably. But when they played the recordings outside the courtyard, the sound was different. Muffled. Distorted. As if the courtyard itself amplified it, or as if the recording couldn't fully capture what they were hearing. In March 1972, Sokolova wrote a letter to the Krasnoyarsk Institute of Physics, described the phenomenon, requested professional analysis. The institute responded. They sent a researcher, a young physicist named Dr. Andrei Lebedev. He arrived on March 28, 1972, spent 3 days in the courtyard, conducting tests, taking measurements, recording data. His preliminary report described the hum as an acoustic anomaly of unknown origin. He noted,
"The sound appears to be environmental, not structural, not mechanical. It exists in the air itself, as if the atmosphere in the courtyard is vibrating at a specific frequency. I can find no natural or artificial source."
Lebedev requested permission to conduct extended research. He wanted to set up permanent monitoring equipment, long-term observation. The institute approved. Equipment was installed in April 1972. Microphones, seismographs, atmospheric sensors, electromagnetic field detectors. Everything positioned at different points in the courtyard, creating a grid, a network of observation. The data collection began. For 6 months, the equipment recorded continuously, day and night, rain or shine. The results were extraordinary. The hum was not random. It had structure, patterns, cycles that repeated with mechanical precision. Lebedev's report from October 1972 described it.
The acoustic phenomenon exhibits rhythmic variation. The frequency remains constant at 47 Hz, but the amplitude oscillates. Peak amplitude occurs at 3:17 local time, every night without exception. Secondary peaks occur at 11:43 and 19:22. The pattern is precise, repeatable. No deviation observed over 6 months of monitoring.
These weren't approximations. The timing was exact, down to the second, as if controlled by a clock. Those times, 3:17, 11:43, 19:22. They meant nothing to Lebedev initially. Just data points, numbers on a graph. But Sokolova noticed something. She consulted astronomical tables, checked solar and lunar cycles. The times didn't correspond to any celestial events. No sunrise, no sunset, no moonrise, nothing. But then she checked historical records, construction documents, building permits, foundation inspection logs, found something unexpected. The building's construction began on March the 17th, 1967, at 11:43 local time. The foundation was poured. The first structural work completed at 1922 the same day. And the building was officially opened to residents on December 3rd, 1967. The first tenant, a factory worker named Ivan Gromov, moved in at 3:17. Sokolova shared this with Lebedev. He was skeptical at first. Coincidence, he said. Buildings don't remember. Concrete doesn't store time. But he couldn't deny the correlation. The hum peaked at the exact times significant events occurred during the building's construction and opening. as if the courtyard was somehow synchronized with its own history. Lebedev noted in his personal journal, later found in his papers after his death,
I cannot explain this. The building has no mechanism to store temporal information, no structure to generate periodic acoustic output. Yet the pattern persists, tied to historical moments, as if the courtyard is echoing its own past, or something is using those moments as reference points.
Lebedev began investigating the building's construction more thoroughly. He obtained blueprints, spoke with the original architects, interviewed construction workers who were still alive. One worker, a crane operator named Fyodor Volkov, remembered something unusual. During the foundation pour on March 17, 1967, the concrete hardened faster than expected, abnormally fast. He said,
We poured the foundation at midday. By evening, it was solid, rock solid. Should have taken 3 days minimum, but it was done in 6 hours. We thought maybe the mix was wrong, too much accelerant, but the engineers tested it, said it was fine, better than fine, strongest foundation they'd ever seen.
Lebedev examined the foundation, took core samples, had them analyzed. The concrete was indeed unusual, denser than standard. Crystalline structure more organized, almost artificial in its uniformity, as if it had been compressed or resonated into alignment. The lab report noted, sample exhibits properties inconsistent with standard concrete curing. Molecular structure suggests exposure to sustained vibration during hardening. Source unknown. In November 1972, Lebedev proposed a new experiment. He wanted to test whether the hum responded to external stimuli, whether it was truly passive or if it could interact. He brought speakers into the courtyard, high-power audio equipment, amplifiers, generators. He played tones at various frequencies, 20 hertz, 30, 60. Most had no effect. The hum continued unchanged. But when he played a tone at exactly 47 hertz, something happened. The hum changed, not louder, not quieter, but different. The two sounds, the hum and the external tone, created interference, a beat frequency, oscillating, pulsing. Lebedev described it. The courtyard hum and the external tone are interacting, creating a third sound, a harmonic. The two sounds are not independent. They are coupled, as if the hum is responding, adapting, harmonizing. He tried other frequencies, 46 hertz, 48, 50. Each time, the hum adjusted, slightly, subtly, creating harmonic relationships, never matching the external tone exactly, but always responding to it, creating patterns, musical intervals, fifths, octaves, as if the hum had knowledge of harmony, of music. Lebedev wrote, "The hum is not passive, it is reactive. It responds to acoustic input, but not mechanically, intelligently. I believe the courtyard is functioning as a resonator, but I cannot identify what it is resonating with, or what is controlling the resonance." He conducted another test, this time with speech. He spoke into a microphone connected to the courtyard speakers, said random words, numbers, phrases. The hum didn't change, but when he spoke specific words, architectural terms, names of materials, concrete, steel, foundation, the hum flickered. briefly. A momentary shift in amplitude, as if recognizing the words. Lebedev documented this carefully, made lists, tested systematically, found that words related to construction, building, structure, all produced responses. But words unrelated to the building, weather, food, politics, produced nothing. He wrote, "The courtyard is selective. It recognizes certain inputs, certain meanings. This suggests the phenomenon is not purely physical. It has a semantic component, an awareness. I am beginning to believe this is not an anomaly. This is a function. The courtyard was designed to do this, intentionally or not." On December 3rd, 1972, exactly 5 years after the building opened, Lebedev conducted a special test. He had been planning it for weeks, preparing equipment, calibrating instruments. He chose the anniversary deliberately, wanted to see if the date itself had significance, if the hum would behave differently on this specific day. He waited until 3:17, the time of peak amplitude, the time the first tenant moved in. He stood in the center of the courtyard, alone, no assistants, no observers, just him and the hum. The hum was intense that night, louder than he'd ever heard it. He felt it in his chest, in his bones, vibrating through his entire body. He activated a high-sensitivity recorder, positioned at his feet, captured everything. Then he did something unusual, something he hadn't documented in any official report. He spoke directly into the hum.
If you can hear me, respond.
He felt foolish, speaking to a building, to empty air. But he was desperate for answers, desperate to understand what he'd spent 8 months studying. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The hum continued, steady, unchanging. Then it stopped, completely, total silence. Lebedev rose. The courtyard had never been silent, not since the building opened, not in 5 years. The hum was constant, eternal, a fact of the building's existence. But now it was gone. He could hear his own breathing, his heartbeat, the wind in the trees outside the courtyard, sounds that had been buried under the hum for years. The silence lasted exactly 7 seconds. He counted them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then the hum returned. But it was different. The frequency had shifted. Not 47 hertz anymore. 49. The change was measurable, undeniable. Lebedev's instruments confirmed it. And the pattern had changed too. The rhythmic oscillation was gone. The hum was now constant, unwavering, as if it had locked into a new state, a new configuration. Something had responded. Something had heard him, and it had answered by changing. Lebedev stood in the courtyard for another hour, listening, recording, trying to understand. The hum remained at 49 hertz, stable, unchanging. At 4:30, he left, returned to his apartment, didn't sleep, spent the night analyzing the recordings, the data. At 8 o'clock, he began writing his report. His hands were shaking. The report was brief, almost frantic. He wrote, "The phenomenon is not environmental, it is not structural. I believe the courtyard is not producing the hum. It is receiving it. The sound is coming from somewhere else, somewhere above. The courtyard is acting as a receiver, an antenna, tuned to a specific frequency, and something is broadcasting. When I spoke, the broadcast changed, shifted, as if acknowledging the communication. I do not know what this means, but I know we should not be interfering with it. He recommended immediate escalation, further research, expanded monitoring, involvement of specialists from other fields, linguists, cryptographers, anyone who might help decode what the hum was transmitting. His report was submitted to the Institute on December 6, 1972. The Institute forwarded it to the Ministry of Science, then to the Ministry of Defense. On December 10th, Lebedev received new orders, not a request, an order. Cease all research immediately. Dismantle monitoring equipment. Submit all data, all recordings, all notes, return to the Institute. No explanation provided, no discussion allowed. Lebedev protested, called the Institute director, argued that the research was incomplete, that they were on the verge of understanding something significant. The director was sympathetic but firm. Orders from above, nothing he could do. Lebedev asked who gave the orders. The director wouldn't say, just repeated. Cease research, comply immediately. Lebedev complied. What choice did he have? The equipment was removed on December 12th. Everything. Microphones, sensors, cables, all packed into crates, taken away. The courtyard was empty again. Just concrete and sky in the hum. Still at 49 hertz. The data was confiscated. Lebedev was required to sign documents, non-disclosure agreements, statements confirming he would not discuss the research, not publish, not share, not even mention it in casual conversation. He signed, then he was reassigned, effective immediately. Sent to a research station in Siberia. Atmospheric studies, weather balloons, temperature readings, irrelevant work, meaningless work. He never returned to Krasnoyarsk, never saw the courtyard again. In his final weeks at the Institute, before leaving for Siberia, Lebedev wrote letters, personal letters to colleagues, friends, scientists he trusted. He didn't mention the courtyard directly. Too risky, but he hinted. Described acoustic anomalies in architectural structures. Suggested areas for future research. One letter, sent to a physicist in Leningrad, contained a single cryptic line.
Buildings can listen, and sometimes they hear things we're not meant to know.
The physicist never responded. Lebedev left for Siberia in January 1973. He worked there for 3 years, isolated, alone. In 1976, he requested a transfer. Denied. In 1978, he requested retirement. Denied. He was 41 years old, too young to retire. In 1981, he died. Pneumonia. Complications from prolonged cold exposure. He was buried in a cemetery near the research station. His grave has no visitors. The building remained. The hum remained. Residents continued living there, complaining, adapting, leaving. In 1975, the municipal authorities declared the building acoustically non-compliant. It was slated for demolition. But the demolition never happened. Funding issues, bureaucratic delays. The building stayed, the hum stayed. In 1983, a new resident moved into apartment 34, third floor, overlooking the courtyard. His name was Mikhail Petrov. He was an engineer, worked in radio communications, military contractor, satellite tracking, deep space monitoring. He heard the hum immediately on his first night, recognized it. Not the sound itself, but the frequency. He'd encountered it before, in his work. 49 hertz, close to the Schumann resonance, the natural electromagnetic frequency of the Earth's ionosphere. 7.83 hertz fundamental, but with harmonics. 49 hertz was the sixth harmonic, significant, not random. Petrov was intrigued, more than intrigued, obsessed. He couldn't ignore it, couldn't sleep through it, not because it was loud, but because it meant something. He brought equipment from his workplace, borrowed, he claimed, though later investigators would find no record of any equipment loans. Electromagnetic field detectors, spectrum analyzers, oscilloscopes, set it all up in his apartment, ran cables down to the courtyard, began monitoring, day and night. He discovered what Lebedev had missed, or what Lebedev hadn't had the equipment to detect. The hum wasn't just acoustic, it was electromagnetic. The courtyard was vibrating, but so was the electromagnetic field around it. The two were synchronized, linked, coupled. Petrov wrote in a personal letter to a colleague, dated June 14, 1983. The courtyard is resonating with the ionosphere. I don't know how. I don't know why. But the building is somehow tuned to the planet's electromagnetic field, and it's receiving something. A signal, a transmission. Not random noise, structured, organized. I don't know what it is, but it's been broadcasting since 1967, maybe longer. Maybe this building just happened to be built in a location where the signal could be received. Or maybe the building itself was designed to receive it. He attempted to decode the signal, spent weeks analyzing it, recorded the hum, converted it to digital format, ran it through signal processing software, looked for patterns, modulation, information content. He found rhythms, pulses, structures that resembled data transmission, binary sequences, frequency shifts, amplitude modulation. But he couldn't decipher them. The signal was too complex or too simple. He wasn't sure which. It didn't match any known communication protocol. Not Russian, not American, not anything terrestrial he recognized. He noted in his journal, entry dated July 3, 1983.
The signal doesn't match any known communication protocol. It's not binary, not analog in the traditional sense. It's something else. The patterns are organic, almost biological, like a heartbeat or breathing. If I didn't know better, I'd say it was alive. But that's impossible. Electromagnetic fields don't live. They propagate. They oscillate. They don't think. But this signal behaves as if it's aware, as if it's trying to communicate. Not with me specifically, but with something. With the building. Or through the building.
Petrov's neighbors began complaining. The equipment in his apartment was loud, generating interference. Their radios picked up static. Their televisions displayed strange patterns. Petrov apologized, promised to reduce the power. But he didn't, he couldn't. He was too close to something, too close to understanding. On August 15th, he wrote another letter. Never sent. Found later among his papers. It read,
I think I've made a mistake. I think the signal knows I'm listening. The pattern changed 3 days ago. Shifted, adapted. It's responding to my analysis. Every time I run a new test, the signal adjusts, compensates. It's evading my attempts to decode it, as if it doesn't want to be understood, or as if it's waiting, testing me, seeing if I'm worthy of understanding.
On August 22nd, 1983, Petrov was found dead in his apartment. Heart attack. Discovered by a neighbor who noticed his door was open. Petrov was slumped over his desk, equipment still running, oscilloscope still displaying waveforms. The neighbor called emergency services. Paramedics arrived, pronounced him dead. No signs of struggle, no trauma, just cardiac arrest. But the scene was unusual. All of the Petrov's equipment was running at maximum power, speakers outputting at full volume, but producing no audible sound. Just subsonic frequencies, below hearing, but felt. The paramedics reported feeling nauseous, disoriented, pressure in their chests. The police investigated. Routine procedure for unexpected deaths. They examined the apartment, found the equipment, noticed the wiring. Cables running from the apartment down to the courtyard, connected to sensors, microphones. They followed the cables. Found the sensors attached to the courtyard walls, hidden behind utility boxes, camouflaged. The police removed everything. Called Petrov's workplace, informed them of the death, informed them of the equipment. The workplace sent representatives. 2 men, no names, no credentials shown. They collected everything. Every piece of equipment, every cable, every note, every recording. Told the police it was classified, government property. The police complied. Petrov's apartment was cleared within 2 days. His belongings were packed, sent to distant relatives. The apartment was cleaned, re-rented within a month. The new tenants never reported hearing anything unusual, but they didn't stay long. 6 months, then they left. Said the apartment felt wrong, oppressive, too quiet. The next tenants stayed even less time, 3 months, same complaints. The apartment remained mostly vacant after that. In the years that followed, the building gained a reputation. Locals avoided it, called it cursed, haunted. The hum became part of urban legend. Stories spread, exaggerations, embellishments. But the core truth remained. The courtyard hummed, and no one knew why. In 1991, after the Soviet Union collapsed, the building's ownership transferred to a private company. The new owners planned renovations, modernization. They hired contractors. Began work in the spring of 1992. The contractors reported difficulties. Tools malfunctioned in the courtyard. Electric drills, saws. Anything operating at certain frequencies would fail or behave erratically. Cutting at wrong angles, vibrating excessively. One contractor described it.
It felt like the courtyard was fighting us, resisting. Every time we tried to work, something went wrong.
Renovations were abandoned. The building remained as it was. By the late 1990s, occupancy had dropped. Half the apartments were vacant. The remaining residents were mostly elderly, people who had lived there since the beginning. They had grown accustomed to the hum. Some claimed they couldn't sleep without it anymore. It had become part of them. In 2003, a journalist from Moscow visited the building. She was writing an article about Soviet-era architecture. She spent one night in the courtyard, recording, observing. She described the experience in her article, published in a minor magazine. The hum is real, undeniable, but it's not unpleasant. It's almost soothing, rhythmic, like a heartbeat or breathing. I felt like the building was alive, aware, and the hum was its voice. The article attracted attention. Paranormal investigators, acoustic researchers, curiosity seekers. They came, they recorded, they measured, they left. No answers, just more questions. The hum defied explanation. It existed, it persisted, but its source remained unknown. In 2011, the building was finally condemned. Structural degradation, safety concerns. Residents were relocated. The building was evacuated. Plans for demolition were drawn up. The demolition was scheduled for September 2012. But before the crews arrived, something happened. On the night of August 15th, 2012, residents in the surrounding area reported hearing a loud sound. Not an explosion, not a crash, just a hum. Massive, overpowering. It lasted for 11 seconds, then stopped. The next morning, inspectors found the building had partially collapsed. Not the entire structure, just the courtyard. The walls surrounding it had fallen inward, into the center, as if pulled, crushed. The rest of the building remained standing. The collapse was investigated. Engineers examined the site. Structural failure, they concluded. Corrosion, age, natural decay. But the pattern of collapse was unusual. The walls had fallen inward, uniformly, simultaneously, as if compressed by external force. One engineer noted in his report, "The collapse pattern is inconsistent with natural structural failure. It resembles implosion. Controlled demolition, but no explosives were used." The site was cleared, the rubble removed. A park was built in its place. Small, unremarkable. Benches, trees, a playground, nothing unusual. Except for one detail. People don't stay long in the park. They walk through, quickly, avoiding the center. When asked why, they can't explain. Just a feeling, they say, discomfort, unease. Some report hearing a faint sound, low, barely perceptible, like a hum. But when they stop to listen, it's gone. There's no official record of the hum, no government documents, no scientific papers. The reports filed by Lebedev and others were never published. Most were destroyed. A few survived, hidden in private collections, passed between researchers. This account is based on those fragments. Testimonies from former residents, newspaper clippings, personal letters. Incomplete, fragmented, but consistent. The courtyard no longer exists. The building is gone. But the hum may still be there, beneath the park, beneath the ground, still broadcasting, still resonating. Waiting for someone to listen. Because if Petrov was right, if the courtyard was receiving a signal, then the signal didn't come from the building. The building was just the antenna, the receiver. The signal came from somewhere else, somewhere above. And if the antenna is destroyed, the signal doesn't stop. It just needs a new receiver. Maybe it's already found one.